Welcome to the Cosmic Business Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Pallas, and this podcast is for soulful entrepreneurs who want to harness the cosmic power of astrology to elevate their message, unlock flow, and attract their best clients ever. Join me every week and get excited to discover how you can use the energy of the cosmos to get the business breakthrough you've been waiting for. Okay, I'm going to freestyle this episode a little bit today because the truth is launches are kind of my jam. So if you are new around here, let me introduce myself. I am Sophia Pallas. I'm an astrologer, I'm a copywriter, and I'm an intuitive business strategist who guides online entrepreneurs back to their soul gifts and their innate communication style. I combine my 15 plus years of experience as a marketing expert for big brands and entrepreneurs with my secret weapon, and that is tapping into the ancient wisdom of astrology to elevate your brand messaging, unlock business flow, and ultimately allow you to attract and multiply your dreamiest clients. Now, I have always been curious about the big questions. I started exploring astrology at a young age, but my Capricornian skepticism got in the way. And it wasn't until my life and business, what I call imploded in 2019, that I was drawn back in and forever changed by what I discovered about myself through astrology. So today we are going to talk about launching, your launch style. Now, I'm talking about online launches. I'm talking about if you are selling a product or a service online, you probably know that launches are a thing. And as a copywriter and a marketer, I've been working with people on their online launches, mostly in the course and coaching space for 5 years or more than 5 years now. And I have watched all sorts of strategies and tactics come and go. But one thing that doesn't change is that you need to know what you're selling and you have to fully believe in the transformation you're offering. Where astrology comes in is that it can give you some really pinpoint guidance on what strategies or approaches will come most easily for you when you're launching, as well as the things that might be a little more challenging. I've been talking about this idea of conscious visibility on social media lately, and this is where you get to know yourself and what will work best for you rather than following someone else's template for a quote unquote successful launch. Now, I have seen a lot of my clients, a lot of entrepreneurs in the online space saying, hey, let's do this because this is so-and-so's formula. I want to follow so-and-so's formula. How can we make that happen? And what I say now is no, we need to come up with the formula or the approach that's going to work best for you. Because everyone is going to have a different tolerance for how salesy they feel they can be. Everyone is going to have a different tolerance for how vulnerable they feel they can be. Some people are going to enjoy the adrenaline rush and the interactivity of running a live event, like a webinar or a challenge, and potentially even writing their sales copy as they go, to feel into the moment. Some people love that 3 a.m. sales page rush. Personally, I don't. But some people like it, and that's okay. Some people want to keep things simple. They want to keep things low tech. They want to keep things pre-planned and prepared. And that's all totally fine. Everybody can launch the way they want to. Okay, there is only one thing that is going to prevent the success of your launch, and I'm going to tell you what that is right at the end. But let's unpack first how you might uncover your specific launch style through your astrology chart. Now, before we start thinking about visibility, we need to understand what we actually need to be at our best for the launch period, because launch periods in themselves are high energy times. They can be intense. They don't have to be intense. It depends on how prepared you are, on how things flow in that time, and how much you're managing your energy, how much you know about your own energy as well. But importantly, in order for you to be your best, you need to know how you need to be supported and how you emotionally express yourself, because launches are going to trigger a lot of emotions in you. So you're going to look at your moon sign. Where your moon is placed by both sign and house is going to give you a good idea of this. It's going to give you a good idea of how you process your emotions and what your subconscious reactions are going to be and what you need to feel good during a launch. If you have, for instance, a moon in an air sign, you might need a lot of conversation. You might need a lot of planning time. You might need a lot of thinking time. You might need a lot of consultation time before your launch or during your launch. You might need somebody you can regularly bounce ideas back and forth with. Maybe you're a prolific writer and you really need to journal a lot during your launch. That kind of thing may happen with that moon in an air sign. If the moon is in a fire sign, you might need to factor in some extra exercise or physical activity to keep your sense of equilibrium during the launch period, because understanding your moon sign is very much about understanding where your happy place is. Where is your equilibrium? So when you've got the moon in the fire sign, there's a lot of energy inside you. You need to be able to release that. That's going to help you regulate yourself. So do you need to factor that extra exercise or activity in? If the moon is in a water sign, you may need to really connect in with your emotions each day. How am I feeling? How am I getting myself back on track? How am I approaching this with a sense of awareness of my own feelings or emotions? How am I honoring my emotions each day? If the moon is in an earth sign, you may need to ground and connect with something material or the physical realm in some way. Earth sign moons love to connect with texture. They love to connect with touch. So think about that. It may even be, if you've got the moon in an earth sign, you need to think about what you're wearing each day of the launch. There's a real physical connection with you feeling good when the moon is in an earth sign. It can also be really important to know whether you were born at night or in the day, because if you were born at night, the moon is going to have an even more powerful influence over how you work. And that is a discussion for another day, but I wanted to throw that out there as well. Okay, so then we want to look at, how do you let your light shine? So we would look to your rising sign and your sun sign here. Now, if you don't know your rising sign, you can focus solely on your sun sign here. But the rising sign can also be very important because, as I've spoken about in several episodes, the rising sign is your personal brand. It's how you come across to the world, right? It's your personality. So it's really important to understand that. But also your sun sign can also influence how you present yourself to the world, especially how you want to shine your light when it comes to your mission in the world. So if you have a rising sign or a sun sign in the fire signs, so that is Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, you are likely to feel more comfortable getting visible. Those fire sign energies generally more outgoing. Now, this is not the case for everyone. It depends on other factors in your chart. But what I have found is that people with a strong fire sun sign or a strong fire rising sign will feel more comfortable getting visible. They'll feel more comfortable with quick spurts of intense or spontaneous activity than the other signs. So getting on an impromptu live or lining up some client testimonial interviews to keep the action and momentum going during the launch is really important. You need to have these ignition points throughout the launch to keep your energy high, to keep your light shining. Does that make sense? Water signs are kind of the opposite of that. So, water signs might feel a little more confronted by having to get out there at a moment's notice, right? So water signs, I'm talking about Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. So can you create a launch activity that's going to allow you to connect with your body and your emotions? Maybe there's a meditation or a breathing exercise you can do before or during a public activity. Maybe at the start of your workshop or webinar or whatever you're doing publicly, you take a moment to connect with people through a meditation or a hypnosis or something like that. What else can you do to connect with your own feelings before connecting with others? This sounds a lot like an internal activity, but it's actually a really powerful external one as well for water signs in particular. connecting with the body. Like maybe there's actually a physical activity. Maybe there's a dance or a movement as well. That can be a really powerful thing for water signs to do. Air signs. For you, and I'm talking about here Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, talking or writing is key. You have a lot to say. Air signs have a lot to say. And in the online world, there are lots of different mediums for you to express yourself, which is awesome. So air signs will often want to craft content as it comes through, not as spontaneous necessarily as the fire signs, but there is a sense of things moving quite quickly, of ideas moving quite quickly. So you might want to craft content as it comes through, but you also need to make sure you've allowed plenty of space to write or record whatever it is that you are preparing. Because if you don't allow yourself enough time or space to record the things, you're going to feel stifled because you have so much to say, right? So maybe you launch via email only, or you do a series of pre-recorded videos. You don't have to be live necessarily. You don't have to do things live, but you do need to communicate often in some sort of prolific way, because that is how you shine. Your ability to communicate is epic. Your ability to pass on ideas, to find and connect ideas, and to express ideas is powerful. Earth signs. I'm talking about Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. In my experience, you need to be really planned and prepared for a launch. So what methodical steps do you need to take to make things feel calm and grounded? For me, this looks like writing my posts or emails in advance and making sure I have lots of support when I'm in the launch process. So editing and review is also a really important part of the process for me in particular, and I think for a lot of earth signs, because we like to be quite methodical in our approach to content. Having that extra time to get things reviewed, to go back over things, to edit things, that's also really great for us to be able to ground ourselves back down into the content that we're putting out there. You also need to consider what kind of methodical approach you're providing to people during the launch. So are you creating a workbook and preparing a step-by-step presentation? Do you have a list of key outcomes that you're referring back to? It's likely that you're going to feel a lot better if you are well prepared in that sense and you have something tangible for people to take away than running things on the fly and having a less tangible launch. Thirdly, we want to look at what Mercury is up to in your chart. So this is how you're going to get your point across. And I've talked about Mercury in the Mercury episode. If you want to go back and listen to this, specifically, I go through all 12 signs if you want to know about your specific Mercury. Mercury is very important in business because it's how we communicate our ideas. It's how we do business, basically. It's how we sell. Now, Mercury travels quite close to the sun, so it's possible it's in the same sign as your sun sign. So, for example, I have a Capricorn sun sign and a Capricorn Mercury. There is a chance your Mercury will be in the same sign as your sun. Alternatively, it'll be in the sign before or after. It can't be any more than one sign away from your sun sign. But even having one sign difference can create a big shift in the way that you communicate. So if Mercury is in the same sign as your sun sign, then work with the guidelines for your sun and rising that I've already discussed. If Mercury is in a different sign to your sun sign, we need to factor this in and adjust things. So if you have a sun in Pisces, the sun was in Pisces when you were born, but your Mercury or the planet Mercury was in Aries when you were born, you best express your ideas, your business ideas, in a fire sign way, in an Aries way. You may have a sun in Pisces, but you express yourself the way your Mercury works, the way your planet of communication and thinking and trade works is in an Aries, which is a fire sign way. So be more spontaneous and dramatic. Use that fiery energy to your advantage. Alternatively, if you have the sun in Leo, but Mercury in Cancer, which is the sign before Leo, this is where you want to consider dialing back the fire just a little. So you want to tap more into the watery liminal spaces. You want to get into the feelings or emotions of your ideal client. You want to make it really personal. Cancer is a very personal sign, a very connective sign, a nurturing sign. So maybe you want to send personal messages to people who've been engaging with you, opening your emails, that sort of thing. Keep an eye on what's going on there and see how you can interact with people in that personal, nurturing way. Okay, what I want you to take away from this short and sweet episode is that you get to choose what feels best to you during a launch. And that is always going to work better than trying to copy someone else. Does that mean you give up halfway through your launch when it's not working? Absolutely not. No, please don't do that. That's not what I mean at all. Working with conscious visibility means you're going to design your launch in the way you want it to look and then follow through. Because the one thing that will kill your launch is giving up. It's a scary, scary process sometimes to put your product or your service out there on the line and wait and see if anyone's going to buy it. But if you don't see it through till the end, you'll never know. And you won't have the lessons for next time. The only unsuccessful launches there are the ones where people give up, where they don't see it through. Everything else is a win because no matter what happens, you have learnt some big lessons. You've put your product, your service out there in a new way. You have engaged with your ideal customers, your ideal clients. Whether they buy or not is kind of irrelevant because no one launch should make or break your business. Everything is a process. Everything is a learning. And the best launches are the ones where we feel the most aligned with what we're doing and what we're selling. Those are the ones that connect the most deeply with our people, that sell the most, but also that generate the best results for us and for our clients. Okay, until next time, happy launching. Thanks for joining me on the Cosmic Business Breakthrough. If you'd like to learn more about what I do, head to sophiapalace.com or follow me at Sophia Palace over on Instagram. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I'd love for you to take a moment and review the show if you found it helpful and share it with a few friends. Thanks again, and I'll speak to you next time.